But Amazonian, let's bring in Swim, shall we, and get Swim into the mix for this next match. How you doing? This has been incredible action so far, hasn't it, Swim?
Oh, no, absolutely. Today has been by far the best tournament experience I've had in just like watching a tournament in Runeterra. These games have been so close. There's so much back and forth. It's really healthy meta right now. There's a lot of different decks that people are bringing, and I can't wait to see who takes it all.
Oh my gosh, I'm so looking forward to it as well, especially knowing what match we actually have on deck next. We do have two players that could potentially even the odds here, with XXWhatAmIXX sitting at 2-0 and RealKey sitting at 1-1. And Amazonian, you actually have a lot of information about XXWhatAmIXX. You already shared some of it, but you also have that real-time experience having casted XXWhatAmIXX in his first game today.
Oh, yep, beating Casanova. Got to see him in action against Artify. That was a great pair of games. And I'm actually excited about seeing this RealKey matchup. RealKey brought in kind of spicy trio of decks, triple Bandle tree originally to the qualifier rounds. And now coming into this group round, qualified and bringing... This is just so beautiful.
yeah, swapping his entire lineup, right?
Plunder, we have TF Swain control, and it's the TF Swain that we saw go crazy in an earlier round. Nobody expected Swain to be coming here today, and the backline stun 'em ups is so...
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the few decks that can really take games off of Zoe Nami really reliably, and we've seen that be successful today. Zoe Nami kind of one of the terrors of today. A lot of players that kind of didn't build around it ended up kind of getting punished for it.
Some of the Zoe Nami kind of working out here, so maybe XXWhatAmIXX can sneak a win with that if it does survive the ban. But Swim, why don't you tell us a little bit more about these decks?
So when we've got this lineup here, XXWhatAmIXX has Lulu Poppy. Of course, this is kind of like the version that's going to be rallying with Yordle Smith. He's got the Draven Scion, which is kind of like a slower, kind of like burstier version of Draven Caitlyn. And he's got, the Zoe Nami, which I don't think it needs an introduction at this point. And on the other side, the Caitlyn Draven, which is similar to Draven Scion, the Plunder, and of course the TF Swain, which is probably going to be targeting Sparklefly, at least somewhat. Like, I think RealKey is going to be pretty comfortable in his ability to beat Sparklefly, especially with his lineup, especially with TF Swain. And I actually expect RealKey will probably be banning out the Scion deck, because XXWhatAmIXX's Draven Scion does very, very well into RealKey's entire lineup. XXWhatAmIXX has a much more flexible ban, but one thing I will say about this matchup is that it's extremely skill-based. These are very, very even decks. Once the bans come through like that, these are very even decks against each other. So it's just going to be who ends up being, the better player and playing tighter is going to take it.
And that's what we want to see here in Worlds. We want to see the best players win, and I think that's what we're going to see in this matchup. I also think that with that Draven Scion potential ban, leaving XXWhatAmIXX on Lulu Poppy Rally and Zoe Nami, it's going to be a lot of decisions, heavy decisions. When do I play things? Do I play into potential removal? Have to protect yourself before you wreck yourself. What am I running? Ooh, so many Yordles.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Beautiful.
I mean, there's a few people that brought, this kind of like Lulu Poppy, just rally deck. But XXWhatAmIXX making it look real good in these games.
And RealKey running with the TF Swain control we mentioned before, but also the GP Sejuani Plunder. You get one of those leveled right on schedule, and the game could be over. And of course, Draven and Caitlyn with a Tri-Beam deck.
Yeah, over on this side, we've got a much more flexible ban from the side of XXWhatAmIXX. One of the things you have to be thinking about when you're banning is what your opponent's going to ban from you. So XXWhatAmIXX should expect RealKey to ban the Draven Scion in all likelihood. You always see some weird stuff, and that should inform his ban. Now, like I said, he's got a very flexible ban here, but I'd personally like to see XXWhatAmIXX go with banning the Caitlyn Draven, although there's an argument for all three of these bans coming out, actually.
There is absolutely. And we're going to take a look here at the Lulu Poppy list here. So this is a Lulu Poppy rally list, which features one of my faves, the Bandle City Mayor. This is the keystone of this deck. You may say, Oh, but no, it's about the Yordles in arms. No, it's about the Bandle City Mayor because he lets you just spit out a dozen units. It doesn't matter if they die, he brought one from home.
Yeah, exactly. Combining just Bandle City's ability to never run out of board with Demasia's ability to rally. I mean, rallies are cards that are basically balanced around the fact that sometimes they're dead. Sometimes you don't have a board and the rally will lose you the game. But with Bandle, you've always got a board. Your units are generating more units with Bandle City Mayor, with Loping Telescope, and that's going to enable these rallies to just sweep at home.
What Am I is here for the beautiful game, and he also is playing into his philosophy of the one of fun of make them play around it. You may have seen there was one repost in that list. That's the I see you, and I want you to feel uncomfortable every time you attack or block.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things you can do in an open deck list format like tournaments, because your opponent can see the one of and they do know they have to play around it at some points, and it can make some of the decision making on the opponent's side kind of difficult just knowing that it's out there. In this case, Riposte is really good at pushing damage through removal. It'll do really, really well against this like mid-range meta that we are deep in a mid-range meta right now, and it's perfect for those matchups. And we see the bans come in exactly as expected. We see the Forested Draven Scion ban because it's just too good against the RealKey's entire lineup, and the Caitlyn Draven ban, which I like to see it.
Caitlyn Draven very good against small units, which are of course all that's left in the Poppy and the Nami list. If your things can survive through burn, they're going to get big.
Yep. This is going to be legendary. This is the game 3 for both of these players, so this is the game that can decide, that basically does decide whether they're advancing to the, the finals, the top 8 at that point, right? What am I currently 2-0? If he wins this, he's 3-0 undefeated, and advance is guaranteed.
Yeah, he's going to be making it to top 8 if he wins this. So there is a lot on the line for him, but he does have some comeback potential if there's a missed game. And if we end up seeing a 3-way tie in the first group, then we might end up going to tiebreakers. So here's a nice opening hand. You've got Tracker, Lulu, Poppy. Love to see it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good opener for What Am I. He's got the curve that his deck so much wants, and the Ranger's Resolve off the top is going to be really, really big here. That's a really amazing counter for the deck that RealKey's playing right now. The TF Swain deck is going to stop Red Card, it's going to stop Make It Rain, and just keep units out of range of stuff.
If you wanted to deal exactly 1 damage to something, that's not going to be an issue. And What Am I also did get a Loping Telescope here, going to have a choice between early damage with the Charger, an endgame Cythria, and a Pompous Cavalier.
It's kind of crazy. I mean, you probably have to go with Charger. It's a little awkward because your units are 1 health, but Ranger's Resolve protects them from stuff like Red Card and Make It Rain, so Charger is pretty protected. The one thing that's a little bit awkward for What Am I right now is this deck is completely dependent on having a board, right? He's the aggressor here. He needs to play units and keep them alive, and RealKey's doing a really good job of punishing that, right? Look at What Am I's hand. It's got Lulu, but no other unit to pair it with.
Yeah, right now, What Am I has been offering trades and accepting those trades. And I do think that that makes sense. Sometimes you just need to keep the board clear enough so you can get a little bit more. But hoping to get the Lulu support, it's not happening right now.
Yeah, this is a little bit dicey for him, and he knows it's a little bit risky to, play the he's going for early chip damage, but potentially at the cost of some of his units here. He could go for a Sharp Sight to keep his the Charging Bull alive through this block. Pushes a lot of damage, but usually What Am I's deck, Demacia decks in general, don't really rely on face damage. They just want to own the board. What Am I does not have the board right now.
See nothing left when I'm done.
Now RealKey setting up for a bit of board clear with the Make It Rain, and we've got a barrel at the ready to turn that into 2 damage per target.
Yeah, really, really awkward. What Am I? Basically, he's going to have to redevelop this board. He needs to draw units that are chaining more units.
But now it's time to try and snipe that Poppy with a gold card. And of course, TF is currently not showing up on the board. He is. Don't worry. He's there. He's hiding.
Yep. And, I mean, even if this Poppy goes down, there will be another one from hand. But in this case, we're actually going to go ahead and play the Ranger's Resolve to protect this Poppy. This does a pretty good job of potentially forcing out more removal on the Poppy. It's interesting, though. I mean, he's kind of like running himself out of resources, and RealKey is looking real strong here.
Now here is the Lulu. The Lulu could heal that Poppy up.
Yeah.
With an attack here, but they both need to survive to get into attacks, and of course we do see there's a Make It Rain here, which will get negated by the second Ranger's Resolve.
Yep, and this is part of the reason why people are running so much Ranger's Resolve in that deck. WhatAmIXX's version is running the maximum 3 Ranger's Resolve because it's so good when you have a wide, kind of like small, medium-sized board and you just want to keep your units out of ranges. It's an amazing meta call here, and it's probably part of the reason why he didn't elect to ban the TF Swain deck. This is great for him. He's even got the Sharp Sight here to make it even nastier. And
so
this is a huge swing turn.
Oh my god, there were so many pieces of removal used on this Poppy, and yet she perseveres. She is going to get to swing in here, heal back up, and RealKey's gonna be taking it.
Yeah, no, this is actually really good turnaround for Jordan, or WhatAmIXX, especially because, you know, the Ranger's Resolve off the top is the big crux of this turn. That turned this around completely.
So with all of the damage gone from Poppy's support, do you see that Ravenous Flock in hand?
Yeah, that flock is not looking so good now. I mean, the Make It Rain will still enable it, but I mean, at this point, WhatAmIXX can just play another Poppy from hand. Here we go with the Relentless Pursuit. We're threatening an attack already, and RealKey is just going to hastily tap under, trying to set that into Flock range. He has to, because he knows he wants to respond with Flock when the attack happens. But now that he's tapped under, Yordle Smith is looking very safe to play. And Lulu plus Yordle Smith is really good.
When you turn your Yordle Smith into a 4/4, it gives all of its friends, because almost nothing is bigger than a 4/4 without attacking a few times here. Quick attack, which makes them so dang strong.
Yep, and this is really the disgusting combo. Lulu giving the Yordle Smith 4/4, it giving itself quick attack, it giving Lulu quick attack. We're going to see basically a hit for 8 on this attack, and RealKey can't even really block that.
No, RealKey does not want to lose that TF, especially with the potential to have a leveled TF in the future. Also, just having any unit available at all here. So WhatAmIXX now turning around with the attack. The Smith giving the quick attack. It's almost like Lulu is a leveled Draven right here. She's here to cause some damage.
And it's not really a block you can take as RealKey, because the thing about Demacia is they're really about just owning the board and rallying when they have the board. You can take blocks later. He's thinking about blocking with the Zap. He's protecting his Nexus health a little bit, but I think without as much over the top, there's a call to block with a Twisted Fate, because it turns the pick a card back into a new Twisted Fate.
Yeah, TF going away does mean you get Twisted Fates on play again, getting to choose between the 3 different cards next turn.
Yep, this is a pretty sweet play. I mean, it's a little bit risky because now, you know, we've got WhatAmIXX's open attack potentially. The Poppy is going to come down, but
and drawing
gonna be
another Poppy. This Poppy has just kept on showing up in hand. We had one that got removed after a ton of Ranger's Resolve to keep it alive. A second one right here, and a third in hand. WhatAmIXX gotta be feeling good about this Poppy Palooza.
Yeah, this is a really good position for him. On the other side of the things, though, RealKey's got Harpoon, and right now that's a big deal because RealKey's win condition here as TF Swain, if he can just kill these units, then it's basically WhatAmIXX's dead in the water, because Demacia, when they're out of a board and when they are on top decks, that deck does not perform well at all. So if RealKey can just clear this board once, it is basically over.
And of course, that Harpoon not being discounted here could be discounted after a Twisted Fate. But do you let your opponent get to attacks?
Yep. It's a bit of a dilemma here. You are going to have to think pretty hard about this if you're RealKey. You can either gold card here and just stun out the Poppy, or you can Harpoon and save your Twisted Fate for later, potentially. I think he realizes he needs a bit of a bailout on the top. We're getting to, you know, big mana turns, and he really wants that blue card draw, I think.
And now we're going to see another 8 damage threatened. We've got Lulu. No? Yep. All right. So a little bit of hesitation there. We've got Lulu coming in
Yep,
with the Smith, and
that's 9 damage. The block
up.
is forced. Yeah, super scary, because now the zap will just have to go down. That is exact damage. And I mean, at this point, with the leveled Lulu is going to start generating the help pixes. That's going to be, you know, free vulnerable, free barrier, and RealKey is going to have a couple of draws to turn this around. He has blue card and Swain next turn if he wants them.
Help.
But right now, WhatAmIXX really favored.
Oh, and a sharp sight helps survive against that damage. Or actually just buff up for a final swing here. RealKey going to need to get as wide as he can or remove these units ASAP.
Yeah, RealKey is for the most part looking for spells. The Arachnoid Sentry is going to be a little awkward here, because WhatAmIXX is probably going to be looking for an open attack on the next turn, meaning the Sentry might not be able to do almost anything at all here. If you're RealKey, you're thinking about using Gold Card to try to snipe the Lulu. If he goes for it, he's going for it, and the Sharp Sight will block this out. And that's pretty huge.
I mean, it means that the sharp sight's being used up, but it's saving the leveled Lulu, and she still has access to the help picks. Passing back here, and the Poppy again in hand for that turnaround, because RealKey is now cut out from most actions, can just stun something, but you don't really need to stun something if you're swinging in for a grand total of 3 damage.
Yep. And at this point, I mean, WhatAmIXX has to know that he's feeling pretty good right now. I mean, you have a threatened open attack. The Arachnoid Sentry coming down for a stun isn't going to do much. If you're RealKey, you basically have to play it as a blocker right now, but it's going to feel really bad. Keep in mind that the TF is on the board.
Yes,
right
there
now,
is
so.
a 2/2 on the board.
Yeah, little visual bug happening. But yeah, I mean, this is basically the only way that RealKey can even potentially survive. But at 5 health, at 2 blockers, he's not really going to be getting much here. A little bit of chip
Twisted
damage.
Fate, where are you? He's just kind of like hovering in the corner. This is not the first time this has happened. And you can see the spider is kind of like shifted over to the side. The TF is there even though he is invisible. And oh, the tenor of terror.
Yeah, RealKey needed a top deck there to be able to survive this attack, and without one, the Lulu buffing the Yordlesmith, the Poppy buffing herself, just regardless of whether Jordan plays the tenor of terror or not, I do think that RealKey is going down this turn.
RealKey with only 5 Nexus health remaining, facing off against triple Yordles right here. The potential for a full 5 board, and of course the help picks can protect one of them right now.
Yep. And WhatAmIXX is just thinking about the exact right way to play around all the different cards that could be in the hand. He knows that a lot of spells are options, and I like to see the development here because of it. Part of the reason why Tenor of Terror is a good card is because in Runeterra, actions are very important. It passes actions back and forth, and being able to summon 2 units at once basically devalues a potential blocker. So he's a little worried about Arachnoid Sentry, but he knows that RealKey just played one, so it's hard for him to have a second one here.
I think that the Terror Tenor is making a big impact on this board. Of course, the base of Burden following up here. Really just getting that 2-for-1 going wide with these well-statted units is huge. And of course, like Swain, yes, he comes out, but without any burn in hand, there isn't any follow-up.
Yep, and this blocker is not going to be enough unless my math is wrong here. WhatAmIXX does have an attack that can just swing in, and there's no way RealKey can survive. He can block an additional time. He can Culling Strike the 2-3 that the Poppy will buff to a 3-4, still in Culling Strike range, but not going to be enough to survive this final attack. And I mean, yeah, the Lulu Yordlesmith interaction going nuts here, of course.
Oh, look at all that quick attack. Even Swain is threatened by this Poppy, and we're gonna see the Culling Strike only with a few targets on this board because of all these buffs. It's just this one. It's just the Tenor.
And exact lethal coming in here, which is gonna be pretty nasty. We're gonna have to see how WhatAmIXX is gonna be able to win with his other unbanned deck here, which is Zoe Nami, as soon as this goes through.
So what am I just making sure everything is safe and secure? Culling Strike here does get rid of that impact, but it doesn't matter because the Base of Burden does have 5 damage all by itself.
Yep, and the impact coming in to secure this exact lethal. There it is. What am I 0, potentially about to go undefeated on day 1 here.
Group A bows to What Am I and his deck list. These are some great games, and now that there's been 1 win, that deck can't be played again, so it's time for Zoe Nami to do some cleanup. Time for the fish.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got a little bit of bias, you and I, Amy, because of course we're both also from North America. But I gotta say, I mean, in a tournament like this, I do have to represent, I do have to root for my North American boys.
I gotta say, both Americans here though, because we do have South America represented
Yes.
with Brazil from RealKey, and I also, again, my deepest respect for RealKey for those first 3 Vandal Tree decks. Wish I was seeing it again here because that was just such a galaxy brain move that ended up paying off in his favor. And it's time for GP Sejuani to go up against Lulu Nami.
Yep, the Zoe Nami, and this is gonna be a very, very even matchup. It really comes down to a lot of how What Am I is gonna be drawing here, of course, with whether he gets the Nami early enough, whether he gets enough buffs. But his hand is not great yet.
No, and we do see on RealKey's side early damage, early plunder hits, and getting towards those GP and Sejuani levels as quickly as he can.
Yep, it's actually a really good hand by RealKey here. He looks in a favorable position because there's no Nami yet, and he's got a beautiful aggro hand. I mean, he can start putting on pressure, get this Jagged Butcher either with a Plunder Trigger or just with an extra attack, and start really laying on the heat.
We have a lot of utility cards in What Am I's hands and not a lot of units. There's a Sparklefly, but that Sparklefly really needs to be saved for being buffed a little bit later on.
Yep. And we've got the Croaker coming down here, which is going to threaten a 4 damage open attack, which enables the Butcher to be played after. What Am I has the ability to play a blocker here, and Sparklefly is a pretty nice blocker because you can actually pretty safely block the Corsair, and it even gets a life steal in right now.
Yeah, heal back up to 19, deal 1 damage, and tie up the life totals.
The awkward thing is usually the Nami deck really wants to send to spell mana. Now, even if he draws Nami, when you put pressure on that deck early, the Nami is often hard to level because if you can't bank mana, she's not leveling.
Yeah, and having to skip turn 2 banking that mana means that she will not be leveled if she were to come out next turn.
Exactly. So we are just, if we're What Am I, we're just trying to stabilize here. We're just trying to keep our health high and buy us time. But RealKey with the Mirai Warden just going wide here is going to be huge. Double Trouble, looking for value blockers.
And Double Trouble, not finding the worst units, but finding an awful lot of things that have 1 health, which means that there's a Make It Rain with their name on it.
It is, however, for What Am I, a fantastic Double Trouble. He got the free extra point of mana off of Shell Shocker, and even though his units are a bit vulnerable to Make It Rain, RealKey kind of has to take an attack here. He knows he has to be the aggressor, and so these units have the opportunity to block down regardless of Make It Rain coming down later.
RealKey knows he's on the beatdown, and he's going for face.
Yep. And it's just going to come down to What Am I's ability to buff up these Sparkleflies faster than the damage is getting out. We're in a meta right now where Nexus Health is kind of like the premium resource, right? We're seeing all these games across all these different matchups that are decided by just like these tiny increments of Nexus Health.
It's amazing how few games we see where one player is still at 20 at the end, especially this week.
Oh, absolutely. That's just kind of like the name of the game with this current metagame.
Yeah, we haven't seen an awful lot of healing built into decks outside of these Sparkleflies.
Yep. So RealKey, he does have a bit of an interesting opportunity with the double Make It Rain. Will guaranteed at least threaten both Sparkleflies, whereas What Am I has the Pale Cascade to protect them. Again, if you're RealKey, you're just trying to put on the pressure. You're on a clock to end this game. And even if you don't end it in time, the more pressure you put on, the more you slow down the Sparklefly deck. Because if you can get them to not spend their spell mana, they're not leveling their Nami. There's a Hush off the top from Yordle Grifter.
Oh, Yordle Grifter with the sweet steals right there. Taking a peek at WhatAmIXX deck and snapping a Hush from the bottom. Nobody expects the Hush in the GP Sejuani deck. And that actually could be huge. If Nami comes out, or if Shelly comes out, starts buffing up a Sparklefly, you just shh.
Yeah, this Hush actually might end up deciding the game, because if WhatAmIXX is able to stabilize here, that Hush is going to be super, super nasty.
We see the consideration here for sacrificing a Sparklefly, leaving one on retainer. WhatAmIXX does need to keep his Nexus health as high as he can so that he doesn't just die in these early rounds.
Yep, and RealKey's basically just playing units out here, right? He's just spending his mana on curve and just, you know, vomiting out to the board. And because of that, we can see the Spell Thief in WhatAmIXX's hand is not even actually usable yet.
And here we go with the Harpoon at Shelly.
Ooh, here we go. So we're going to Pale Cascade. The Spell Thief might actually... Ooh, the draw on Gifts from Beyond is so good, because WhatAmIXX is looking to trigger the Shelly before it dies, and the Spell Thief would have blanked out. I think RealKey is intentionally avoiding giving Spell Thief a spell. Was there one?
There's two. You've got your very own
the harpoon that
in
just got
hands.
played. Yeah. You have the ability to just take that. And that could be pretty good at dealing with a potential gangplank that comes down later.
And now, WhatAmIXX back on the attack with an army of elusives. You've got Zoe showing up. I love Zoe. One of my favorite champs, might be my favorite champ. And here she is too. Cause a little bit of mischief, getting in damage and invoking.
And if you're RealKey, you're thinking about potentially playing Zap as a blocker, potentially Make It Raining right now, not letting Zoe potentially get an attack off. All right.
That's a good hit for Make It Rain, taking out that Zoe before she has a chance to attack.
Yeah, and this is a really, really solid play. It's also triggering the damage on the Nexus that you need for your Sejuani and Gangplank leveled up, which is very, very big.
They're both one plunder away from leveling up.
Yep, and we are going to get that next turn. The really nice thing about Sejuani's level up is that by freezing the attack of units, in this case, it's just as offensive as it is defensive, because you have the ability to stop these Sparkleflies from lifestealing. It's looking really good for RealKey. WhatAmIXX going to need a top deck to bail him out of this one.
Not having that Nami show up is the problem with this deck. When your Nami just isn't there and Shelly just can't quite support dying, as we saw right there, it is hard to stay alive against decks like this. And here she comes. It's Sejuani coming out and granting vulnerable and frostbiting one of these Sparkleflies.
Yep, and this entire board is definitely under threat of just being frozen outright. We've got the Dreadway in hand off the top, and it's looking like RealKey's about to close this game out. I mean, probably not this turn, but very, very soon after. I don't know if WhatAmIXX has enough time to stabilize anymore.
It might not even take another attack. After this turn, attacks are done. If Dreadway with the warning shot and maybe even a Make It Rain could close this out.
Yep, he's going to have to decide whether he wants to play Double Trouble to get more blocks or line him up. In this case, potentially killing off the Zap or enabling the Harpoon to kill Sejuani. There he goes, setting up the Sejuani for the Harpoon.
That's smart. It's going to use up all the mana, but it's going to be worth it because otherwise Sejuani is going to overrun this game. And it also gives the option of killing the Sejuani in combat. She attacks, she grabs a blocker, and then she dies. There's no overwhelm done, and the challenge is lost.
Yep, and what RealKey's thinking about right now is this Make It Rain, because he knows the Harpoon is in the hand. Especially off this play, he saw the Spell Thief happen. If he uses Make It Rain now, well, you want to hit the Nexus anyway to stop the lifesteal, and if it hits the Keg on this stack, well, it just has the ability to keep Sejuani out of this threaten range, which is a really big deal.
He does have a Harpoon of his own in hand and a warning shot to help enable it. There could be a bunch of back and forth here, as well as with this Make It Rain. Yeah, if the Make It Rain gets very lucky, hitting that keg. He's going for
it. It needs to hit the keg here. It does not hit the keg, which is a little bit disastrous, but Sejuani is still going to be freezing the board, and that's going to stop these Sparkleflies from healing. One of them is still vulnerable, so it can get pulled by the Grifter, but this Sejuani is going down to the Monster Harpoon.
We're seeing
Seize the opportunity.
the Grifter grabbing Sparkfly number 1. Sejuani swinging in on her own.
Yep.
We're probably going to see the other Sparklefly just sitting on the back line. But, yeah, RealKey. Definitely a major threat. Even with the Sejuani dead, there's still more in the deck and a Dreadway in hand for 2 turns from now.
Exactly. The scariest thing about this situation for WhatAmIXX is that, I mean, even if he's able to draw something at this point, a draw card, a Nami, or potentially another Shelly, it might be too late. I mean, he doesn't really have a board anymore. He's forced into just harpooning here to even basically stay alive this turn, and we can see the Dreadway in RealKey's hands. That's going to do a really good job of just forcing this game out basically next turn.
WhatAmIXX still left with a fairly weak hand after all of this, though. Another double trouble. I think that's the 3rd double trouble this game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure, it spits out the 1/1s, but that's not what you want right now. It's turn 8.
Exactly.
It's turn 8. You need something.
Star charts not looking too good here.
It can stun something, it can silence something, but it's gonna be up to what it hits, and it's still not guaranteed to do what it needs to.
Yep, I think you've probably got to go for it. Going for the double trouble, maybe trying to hit some elusives or some powerful units at least. There is a chance that this could be a bailout. As always, we get the Doomkeeper and a 0/3.
And here comes Gangplank. Already
Alright.
leveled at the same time as Sejuani in the deck, bringing a barrel and getting ready to eke out some lethal.
Yep, and in this situation, WhatAmIXX is just looking to stay alive one more turn, but at 6 health with Gangplank here, with Dreadway hitting the board next turn, there's really nothing that's going to help that for him. I mean, he has the Hush to potentially stop one of the effects next turn, but I just don't see him surviving the next attack here.
I do love seeing the Hush stolen with the Grifter. One of my favorite things is to nab in this game, and I remember when nab was the most efficient form of card draw. Those were the days.
Yeah, the nab meta, and of course now the Plunder deck is back. It was very, very similarly built deck as it was like a year ago, you know, the Yordle Grifter and the Black Market Merchant versions, and now it's back in the meta again, full force with the advent of Monster Harpoon.
And the most satisfying thing, if you are playing the nab meta, is nabbing nab cards because everybody's playing them, and you just chain them together, and you're just borrowing from their deck. It feels good to do. And it looks like we're going to see a bit of damage on Zap. She is dead and gone and no longer able to block the Sparklefly, who is going to offer a small amount of healing. But it looks like WhatAmIXX going for the swing. Gotta get it while he has it.
Yep, and the Sparklefly will heal potentially and it won't die, but it's not really going to offer too much for the situation. I mean, RealKey's health is not low enough to be scared about almost anything here, and even with that little bit of lifesteal, it's not going to help WhatAmIXX survive RealKey's next attack.
No, it won't. And I want to take a look at WhatAmIXX's deck list right now to see if there is a way to follow up with direct damage. It's not really the specialty of the deck. Zoe Nami focuses a lot more on cantrips, cards that draw other cards and replace themselves to allow you to chain together spells. It looks like it's just line them up.
We see RealKey's nabbed Hush coming out. We can see the look on WhatAmIXX's face right now as he realizes he's not getting any amount of lifesteal whatsoever as the board trays down, but Gangplank is up and dominating.
GP very happy to see the next turn because it's time for the Dreadway. Here it comes. It's the boat drawing another Gangplank and doubling the damage.
We've got the super cool star chart. We've got to go for a Crescent Strike here. Unfortunately, even stopping these attacks, you are still going to be dying to the warning shot and the parlay, and there's nothing here. No Crescent Strike. He just has to go for Equinox or Messenger, but neither of them is going to resolve this situation.
No, if you try to silence the Dreadway, there's still a warning shot and a parlay in hand for that direct damage.
Exactly.
I don't think What Am I has a way out. If you go for the Messenger, same thing. You're still taking a slow action that allows RealKey to set up for the swing.
Yep. And he's just basically completely out of resources here. A lot of other hands would have ways of being able to stabilize. The Hush not really doing enough here, but it will slow down this attack by quite a bit. We have a Fearsome blocker for the Dreadway, and it's up to RealKey how he wants to proceed. The game should be ending this turn.
So we saw a silence the Hush on Gangplank, getting rid of that overwhelm so the damage is less likely to go through.
Yep.
But the damage is now still being doubled.
Yep, the Keg is still there, the Dreadway is still there. That's a 4 damage parlay, it's a 2 damage warning shot, and because there's no healing in What Am I's hand, this does look pretty over. Even if there was healing, he'd have to use it here. RealKey is just being careful, making sure to play around everything.
There's a salvage that can't be cast. So there is a warning shot for the win. RealKey tying it up and putting What Am I on the spot for this final match.
Yeah, the burst speed just closing it out, and we go to game 3. So this is the final game. This is going to completely decide which of these players is advancing and which of them is potentially going to tiebreakers. I think if What Am I wins, he is secured for the top 8. If RealKey wins, he's likely in, but I think it would go to tiebreakers, so it's not 100%.
RealKey being 1-1, I believe, right now. Going 2-1 does definitely put him in a good spot.
Exactly.
For this group.
Yep, and we get to the final game here, which is Zoe Nami versus the TF Swain, and we've seen TF Swain be pretty good against Zoe Nami here. Now, it is a little bit dependent on, the opening draws of this matchup, but it does a really good job, all things considered, of shutting down that deck. You have so many ways to deal with the leveled Nami, to deal with the things before they become threats.
All right, things I like. Early Zoe. Early Double Trouble.
Right.
Things I also like. Early Make It Rain. Oh, but it's being mulled away.
Yeah, I think at this point, RealKey's just going for trying to basically have hard removal. Culling Strikes, Mossar Harpoons, and Ravenous Flocks are really what you're going to want here. Make It Rain is a little bit dicey because a lot of things just get boosted out of that 1 damage range.
So how are you feeling from what we've seen of these decks about this matchup, about this game right here, which might be the one that secures What Am I getting into top 8?
I'm really, really excited. I think that this is a matchup that a lot of people do think is TF Swain favored, but I am of the opinion that it's a lot closer than people give it credit for. It really, really comes down to the variance and to how each player decides to play it out. Here's the Make It Rain top deck. There's the Keg, so the Zoe can't be kept alive by a lot of pretty small things. We're going to roll a random and probably pick up a Trickster here, unless What Am I is going to plan very far ahead and go for Equinox. This is
Also
a super
nice.
interesting choice.
What Am I does now have a Nami in hand, and the Trickster is another nice elusive unit to build onto with that Nami buff.
There it is. And right now, if you're What Am I, you do need to bank the mana. Ooh, the Make It Rain isn't going to come out. RealKey knows exactly what he wants to do here. He is saving his removal for the Nami and for the Shelly, because he knows that if he can stop the elusives from just getting buffed over and over again, the Zoe won't actually make that much of a difference here, and she's getting taken down by the hired gun here anyway.
Hired Gun granting vulnerable to Zoe so she can just be challenged during combat and taken out by one of these smaller units. And here comes Double Trouble. What will it hit? Any number of 2 drops. We've got... Oh, Mentor and Poro. Is that the Sinister Poro?
Yeah, the Sinister Poro. Not going to do too much here, but there's certainly been worse rolls I've seen off of Double Trouble. What am I just looking to set up the leveled Nami here? He can have the Nami on the board by next turn if he wants. You usually need to save mana to protect her, especially against a deck like TF Swain.
I want to say that Sinister Poro. If you have not already, you should take a look at the full art for that card because it's great. It turns out it's not the Poro that's giving it fearsome.
Wait. Oh, I don't think I've ever seen the full
There's a
card for
big
that.
monster behind it in the art.
Oh.
These are the things that you might miss if you're not just like constantly full screening things, because I'm always like, oh, let me just look at this art. Let me just bask in the glory of these poros.
Yeah, Runeterra does actually have really, really, really high quality full card art, and I think a lot of people aren't checking out enough.
Yeah, you should be right-clicking on your cards. You should be giving them a good, hard look, checking out their flavor text too. A lot of them have little quotes, and them have poems and songs on them too. It's very fun.
All right. And anyway, back to this day one effective finals between these two players competing at their shot for top 8. We see the second Make It Rain drawn off of RealKey here, and it's up to WhatAmIXX to decide when he wants to lay this Nami down. He does not have the best amount of protection for it. No Guiding Touch, no Sunblessed Vigor, and he did get a Pale Cascade off the top, but this Nami is probably going to get killed when she comes down.
Yeah, Nami is very, very susceptible to getting hit by a little bit of damage from one of these Make It Rains, and then followed up by a flock.
Yep.
There's also a Culling Strike there. Just want to say there is also a Culling Strike in hand. That's what the Pale Cascade might help with.
Yeah, the Pale Cascade could definitely provide a really, really good option here. So it looks like we're going Moon Weapon, and I don't know if Nami can wait later than this. I mean, she's not really going to have a better opportunity here.
Nami, oh Nami, will you make this Poro grow?
Yeah, the biggest problem with this Nami is even if she comes down, if she dies right away, if she's not buffing an elusive, that's really going to not be as value. She does have to hit the board at 3-4. It's still in range of Culling Strike, and it without any heals, it's still in range of Flock too. RealKey has multiple ways of dealing with this.
And here is the Make It Rain.
Yep.
You know, it might come down to what gets drawn off of a Pale Cascade, if there's any healing available there.
Yep. This is a pretty nice play. It gives RealKey a lot more flexibility in his next action, because basically how the damaged effect works is a little weird. You can't use Ravenous Flock or Scorched Earth on a unit if it's not damaged already, but if you use it and then they heal it and then you re-damage that unit, then the damage still goes through. So by doing this, he's allowing himself to flock, and then he knows that if WhatAmIXX plays either Guiding Touch or, of course, Sunblessed Vigor, he still has the kill with the second Make It Rain.
So we're going to see some spell thievery happening here.
Yep, and it's just going on the same Make It Rain. WhatAmIXX trying to stop the keg, looking for that 75% chance, hits the keg, and that's going to keep the Nami at 1 point of higher health. I don't know if it's going to matter in this case, especially with the Pale Cascade not having enough mana for anything else. This Nami is going down this turn.
Nami is going to die, but the Poro's gonna live. Does that not mean anything to you, Swim?
Yeah, the Poro living here is actually potentially a big deal, because the chip damage that you're getting, just having more potential buff targets off of more Namis or more Shellys off the top, is actually going to be pretty huge.
What am I, though? Losing this Nami, not a lot of replacement in hand, no other Nami, no Shelly, making these spells a lot less worthwhile. There is a bit of removal, though, with that line them up, knock them down.
Yep. And this is really, really interesting, because this game is probably going to go to kind of like a grindy long-term resource game. I mean, we see a lot of damage coming in here off of the Spooky Poro, and it's going to be basically up to WhatAmIXX to think about ways of being able to get the elusive over the top once this initial damage comes through.
RealKey sitting on lots of potential pieces of removal here. And what am I? Going for the super cool star chart. Going to buff up that Poro again and end up with another
Ooh, that's
elusive
really,
in hand.
really
Also,
good draw for him here.
that Burblefish is free. Free to be the Burblefish it wishes to be. Which is very wiggly.
That star chart pulling the second otter is actually putting WhatAmIXX in a pretty good position here, because at this point the Nami's dead. You know, you're gonna deal a lot of damage here unless you're, unless the harpoon comes out, in which case you forced out a different source, which is really good too. Looks like we are just going to be dealing with Nami with something else. RealKey not wanting to let his health get this low, but he is running out of resources.
But RealKey does still have the Culling Strike, and with WhatAmIXX out of mana, it's not like Nami can be protected.
It's a little bit nasty. The Culling Strike can just come down, threaten this Nami, and he knows he's got Harpoon as basically a get out of jail free card for something that were to happen later.
RealKey, the only one left with units on the board.
Time to make some coin.
And just going for the open swing. Get that 4 damage in while you can.
Yeah, the Hush top deck from WhatAmIXX really not helping out too much here, but he's going to start laying on pressure with these elusive attackers. These 3/3 otters are actually perfectly statted and perfectly positioned to start potentially chipping out RealKey's life here. And we can even kill the 2/2 elusive Zap with one of the line-em-ups. And there's a Sparkle Fly.
Yeah, WhatAmIXX? Very good at lining up the elusive units this turn and removing the only thing that can block it. And it looks like we're
Exactly.
seeing a draw here. Mirai Warden, very fun to go wide with, but not enough mana to play her.
And I think at this point, WhatAmIXX is mostly just concerned with basically not letting a Make It Rain or potentially a red card snipe off the Burblefish for free. Now, if he wants to play the Burblefish now, it's a little safer because the Pale Cascade, since he's on the attack turn, would push damage while keeping it alive. And we can see the Make It Rain that WhatAmIXX is playing around in RealKey's hand.
Having
The
2
Burblefish
health
is safe here.
very important. And here's the Burblefish.
All right. Burble even getting one of the better options that it has access to. And of course, we're going to have another Otter. This is looking like a really big elusive potential win condition.
So RealKey
now?
is still at 17 Nexus health. Probably feeling a little threatened by all these elusives, but still feeling I am the one who's pressured most of the damage so far this game.
Yep, and we even have the Spell Thief potentially taking back Make It Rain yet again.
We've got 2 Otters, a Burblefish, a Sparklefly facing off against,
Anyone like you?
unfortunately, only one elusive. That's the Zap. Zap Sprayfin here, able to sit in front of one of these and maybe line it up for a Ravenous Flock.
Yep.
But there's
What am I
lots of
deciding?
fast removal for RealKey.
Yeah, the Burblefish or the Sparklefly, I mean, whether RealKey wants to play offensive or defensive here is, definitely a little bit flexible, but he will have removal and he'll have to start using it on these elusives. The scary thing about this position is that RealKey is running low on resources, so he's going to have to try to end this game fast because WhatAmIXX has a lot of cards in hand. He's going to be drawing multiple cards, and at this point, RealKey just has to abuse the fact that WhatAmIXX is down to 8 health already and try to, if possible, threaten him next turn.
Can't block, won't block. Take the damage because he can. Let's see if there's going to be a response. There is the potential to save something, but it's not going to be the Burblefish.
Yep. The Vigor could come out on the Sparklefly, but WhatAmIXX deciding it's not worth it. Instead, just making sure he's got that lifesteal. I think he didn't want to leave Sparklefly on the board as a 1 health damaged unit, so at the very least, he got the lifesteal, he damaged Zap down to 1 health, and of course, he has a potential Make It Rain off of the Spell Thief, so that 1 health Zap might matter. We see the open attack with RealKey, and this is where he's trying to threaten this lethal here. It's not going to be quite enough, but it puts into Leviathan range, which is really terrifying.
Yeah, there is 7 damage coming through right here, putting WhatAmIXX down to 2.
And this is it. RealKey is out of elusives. He's going to have to use his spells to keep himself alive. He could draw ways of dealing over-the-top damage, but this is where WhatAmIXX is going to start trying to own the game. He's got a much bigger hand, a much larger presence. The question is, will RealKey be able to kill him fast enough?
That was actually a great get off of the Invoke. We see up there, is that Eclipse Dragon?
Yep, Eclipse Dragon, which of course is just going
Ooh.
to generate two more Nightfall cards.
Making even more beaters.
Yep. Right now, WhatAmIXX has all the options, but a really Monka Giga amount of health.
Yeah, I would be terrified of being at 2 against a GP TF deck because they're very good at hitting the Nexus for, 1 or 2 at a time. It adds up and it kills you very quickly.
All right, we've got RealKey with the decision here. He doesn't really have too much to do. He's just looking at those elusives, he's looking at that Eclipse Dragon, and he's realizing he's probably gonna have to use these spells like Scorched Earth and Monster Harpoon just to stay alive. I mean, if something scary gets played, we see, of course, the Destroyer off of the random Eclipse Dragon, which is a big, scary Overwhelm unit that is probably threatening lethal here, and RealKey doesn't have any direct way to stop it. Swain blocks the Overwhelm a lot.
Screeching Dragon for a potential future turn if it gets any further, but no, the Destroyer with the massive Overwhelm with the Spell Shield. What can you do against that, RealKey? What
That's
can
really
you
big.
do?
And if WhatAmI wants to go for lethal here, you can always use Gifts from Beyond into the Overwhelm weapon, Infernum, on the Eclipse Dragon, which would push lethals into pretty much everything. I mean, there's no way WhatAmI can stop enough damage really here. If WhatAmI decides to do that, go for the Infernum here on the Screeching Dragon, the Overwhelm weapon, that would be it. He would win the game. This is so close. He's at 2 health, Amy. Like, basically every game that we've seen has been basically just decided by this difference of like 1 or 2 health. It's absolutely absurd.
It actually makes me really respect this meta and these players, because it doesn't feel like one player has just swung the game right here. It feels like there's been these small moves which have added up turn by turn to get them into the position they're in right now.
Yeah, it's really, really perfect. So WhatAmI is thinking about going in for the Infernum. I know he sees that as an opportunity, but he might be a little bit worried about an Arachnoid Sentry. It looks like he's going for it. Here's the Gift from Beyond. If he went for it, I think that would be it. And there it is, the Infernum Overwhelm. And I don't think there's any way outside of this for RealKey.
No, it's too big to be harpooned. There's not enough damage. You can't put the harpoon on the stack with the Scorched Earth. All you can do is what, kill an otter? That's nothing.
Yeah. I mean, you can use both of them on the Eclipse Dragon here, but at that point, you're still just taking too much damage because you don't have enough mana for the Swain. The Destroyer is going to deal an inevitable 7, and the 2 otters are going to take that to 13. There's just no way out of this.
Oh,
this Infernum has him locked.
RealKey is trying to find anything he can. He's trying to think through the different lines. If I get the damage on here now, if I remove one of the elusives, if I remove the Eclipse Dragon, is it enough? The answer is no. Yeah. WhatAmI, though? You can see he's stressing. He's stressing because he sees that RealKey is at full mana. He's got 4 cards in hand, and they could be anything.
And we're going to see this sigh of relief on WhatAmI's face as he swings in. No Arachnoid Sentry, nothing stopping this. He's wondering what he could have. Look at his face.
I know,
right
you
now.
can see he's thinking through every possibility. He's thinking, oh, were any random cards being generated this game? Did anything get nabbed from me? We saw the Hush last game. What could it be? What do I have to worry about? And the answer is nothing, because Swain. I mean, Swain's great. Don't get me wrong. I think he's spooky, I think he's cool, and I think he's a decent blocker. But when it comes to the sheer amount of damage on these Overwhelm units...
Yep, it's just too much. Because the Monster Harpoon can't get discounted in time.
Still going for that Scorched Earth on the Otter, though. No tricksters for you.
Oh, but look at this game. I mean, this is another one that comes down to the wire. RealKey dying by -1 health, needed 2 more damage to be able to take it. But WhatAmI? Look at his face. He's so surprised and happy. He goes undefeated through day 1, and he's going to top 8.
I'm so happy to say it. WhatAmI? Our first qualifier getting into the top 8 in these games we've seen right now. Love it.
This was a really intense series, and I'm really happy that we're getting to see these players, like the best players in the entire world, clash it out.
An intense series and a long series. You two are absolute champions for getting through that one. But you were right, Swim. You nailed it on the head when you were talking about this during that match, which is that every little bit of Nexus damage counts.
Yes.
That definitely came down to the wire.
Exactly. I mean, so many things are just won or lost right now. I mean, that's what the meta is right now. It's just like super balanced decks and a lot of decks that value Nexus damage. So when it's that case, there's always going to be like every inch you can get to generate that little bit of advantage is going to put you a mile ahead.
And 3-0 for What Am I as we pull up the standings right now. I mean, this is just incredible. Getting a chance to go undefeated in Group A. But Amazonian, I'm just kind of excited to see what's going to happen next because we still have one more match for Group A. I don't know who's going to make it.
We have the 1-1, the 1-2, both of which could tie, and then it comes down to the breakers. But I also want to mention that for Group B, Aikado, the other North American representative, has actually already guaranteed to advance out of the group stage and make it to top 8. We've got both the North American ones making it into top 8 out of groups A and B.
Oh, that feels good. You know, it's proud. It's a proud day.
It's a proud day for us.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, we've got 2 North American contenders making it into the top 8 already. Aikado being able to clinch that, knowing that he has beaten everybody else that could be at a tied scoreline at 2-1 when we get a chance to look at the final 2 matches of Group B. I can't wait to get into the next match. So, Amazonia, we're going to send you on your way. We will hear from you a bit later. Thank you so much for the casting.